Welcome to another interview within the Self-Led Leadership Series. In this Self-Led interview series, I have been having thoughtful conversations with women about their experience beneath their success, exploring the moments where, we kind of question ourselves, learn to trust our intuition, and rediscover our value. And today's conversation continues that exploration. We are focusing on something many entrepreneurs struggle with, and that is how we move from feeling invisible to confidently showing up and sharing our work with the world. Today, I'm joined by Dotty Scott, the founder of Premium Websites and her Ask Dotty series, and someone who has spent nearly 2 decades helping small business owners, I'll say, claim their space online. Dotty is a web designer, a social media expert, a speaker, a trainer, and a best-selling author who has built a reputation for making complex digital marketing strategies understandable and accessible for entrepreneurs. And what I especially appreciate about Dotty's work is her commitment to helping business owners move from feeling invisible online to showing up with clarity and confidence. So today I'm looking forward to exploring not just her strategies that she teaches, but the personal journey that really shaped how she shows up and leads her work. So Dotty, thank you so much for being here and agreeing to do this, have this conversation with me. Really nice to see you.
Nice to see you too, Linda. And I am so glad that you asked me.
Yeah, great. Well, I think people are going to get a lot from these conversations because we see success, we see the person and we see, oh, yes, they're very successful, but we don't really think about what went on behind the success. Anyway, so when you first started your business, how comfortable were you with visibility and putting yourself out there?
I was at about a 0.
Really?
Yes. So a little bit about me. I am a true introvert. I work by myself here in my home office, and this is my happy place. If I have to go out into like big chamber events, networking, that sort of stuff, I was just terrified. My happy place is to just be here, do what I need to do, and go on with the day. Kind of hiding. That was my comfort zone. But I realized very early that I wasn't going to gain clients by being in my happy place.
Yeah.
So I had to teach myself how to go out and actually function in these large groups and meet people. And it's like I was starting at ground zero. I always tell people I never recommend starting a business the way I did it, but it worked for me.
I resonate so much with that because that was exactly me. Exactly me. Now, recognizing that you had to do this, to be visible, was there ever a time when you were hesitant, or I'm so sure there was, hesitant or uncertain about really being able to, because, networking is one thing and going to talk to people is one thing, but really claiming your space publicly is another. So was there a time when you felt hesitant to do that, or sort of it felt too overwhelming for you?
Oh, still today, I sometimes feel that way. I taught myself some tricks in the beginning, and I'll walk through the anti-logic of them that was going through my head, but it really did work. So one of the things that I realized is that what I was doing, which at that point was just simply building websites, it was something that every business owner needed. Very few understood or even wanted to understand it, and they didn't even really want to talk about it because their experience up to that point with talking with people that build websites is that they make them feel dumb. And and I was like, no, that's not right. So, in the very beginning, I made some rules for myself about how I'm going to talk to people and making them feel smart for what they are smart at was a really good choice on my part, which seems really obvious, Linda, but it in my industry, there were so many people that they're engineers. They just don't know how to talk to people. So that was a big help for me. The other really big thing that helped me in the beginning was that I realized people would come up and ask me questions generally about like social media. I mean, back then, Facebook was just starting to be a big thing. Like they had just started having business pages. That's how long ago this was. LinkedIn was the thing, and Twitter. The rest of them weren't even around yet. And they would come up and ask me questions about it. And I realized that what I needed to do, this was my thought process. I would write down the questions and I would go home into my happy place and I would create a video that would answer those questions. And then in my mind, when someone asked that question again, I would just send them the video. That's literally what I was thinking, which you and I both know that's ridiculous. But what I decided to do is all of those people, if you remember when you used to go to networking events in person, big chamber events, people would come up and they would just shove business cards in your hand. Highly don't recommend that. But what I did with those cards was I put them on an email list, and I highly don't recommend this anymore either. And I started sending them a video every week of these questions that people were asking. And I called it my video tip of the week. And these videos were like 30 to 45 seconds. Super short. They were one thing and one thing only. And I started getting really good feedback when I went to these large events. Things like, Dotty, you're everywhere. Well, I'm not. I am literally in my office. That's it. But people were seeing them in the email. I would put them on Facebook. I would put them on LinkedIn. And I think I even put them on Twitter. I can't remember if Twitter did video back then. So they were seeing it in different places, which gave them the impression that I was everywhere. And the other super cool thing it did was it allowed people to come up to me in these big networking events and ask me questions on something I knew about because they'd just seen a video. And they would come up and they would walk up and talk to me as if I knew them because they felt like they knew me by watching these short little videos. It was a really strange thing to get used to in the beginning because I had no idea who these people were. They had literally just handed me a card at some point in time. But it helped me as an introvert. I mean, I would be the person that would walk into one of these meetings and look and see all of these like circles of people and not know how to get in, break into a conversation and just kind of watch, which did me no good. But when they started walking up to me and talking to me, then I could relax and I could answer their questions and then the conversations just flowed from there. So it was probably the absolute best thing that I ever did in the beginning to get clients was those short little videos. And I still do videos today. It's, a 20-year journey on videos.
Actually, you think about it, that's pure genius, really. And I know you were doing it because, in a way, it helped you feel more comfortable. And the fact that people were asking you questions to record a video to answer it meant you didn't have to keep repeating yourself as well.
Exactly.
It really is genius. I so identify with your experience of networking groups. I mean, I just, at one point, a friend and I used to go to networking groups together. We're both introverts, and we would end up just talking to each other for most of the time. And, then we would challenge ourselves. We've got to meet at least one new person at this meeting today. So I get that. So what you did was actually genius. And it's a great example, I think, of how you can take a situation that is uncomfortable and ask yourself, how can I make this work for me? What can I do to make it more comfortable for me? And so you're collecting the business cards, you're going back to your happy place, you're recording your answers to these questions and sending them out to these people. And that made them immediately feel comfortable with you, because you're right. Typically talking about websites and online stuff is very overwhelming, and makes people feel stupid when they talk to people. So it was actually genius. I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
And as you've helped so many entrepreneurs navigate websites and digital marketing, what drew you to this work originally?
That's an interesting question. So back further in my history, when I was a teenager, I was really drawn to photography. And back then, it's dating myself, I had a little 110 camera, those little ones that were like this shape, which took terrible pictures, but I didn't care. I just loved doing photography of things, landscapes, trees, flowers, whatever. And out of high school, I went to the Art Institute of Seattle. Before it was an accredited college, I went through their photography program. I graduated from that program, and I worked with several different photographers. And I realized two things after I went through that program. One, I didn't want to work with people. Now, mind you, I was in my early 20s at this time, and I didn't even know what the word introvert, that it even existed, or the definition of it. But I was a photo assistant for a portrait studio who also did weddings. I was immediately introduced to, I'll call them bridezillas, but it was really more the moms of these women that were getting married. And I realized I did not want to deal with this. I was like, it's not my personality. I take great photos, not dealing with the people. So that was the first thing. The second thing is, at about that time, I really started losing my vision. And I could no longer critically focus. And this was before digital cameras were really a thing, and the ones that were out were terrible. Autofocus didn't really work like it does now. And I just thought, this is the wrong path for me. And, so I just kind of quit that. I still love photography. To this day, I call myself a hobby photographer. And I loved what I learned about art when I went to the Art Institute. I love color, like all of these different elements of art I absolutely love, which is weird for someone who's also very technical. Like I enjoy both sides of my brain. I'm also very dyslexic, which is probably why this works for me. But I'm not heavy on the left and I'm not heavy on the right. I'm right in the middle. And I really enjoy that about me. And so when I decided I wanted to work for myself, because my daughter at that point, so many years had gone by from this story, my daughter was in kindergarten. I could tell she was going to be an athletic individual, which I am not. I could tell that she was probably going to be one of these people that were really involved in school. Like, she is so not an introvert. People just collected around her, even in kindergarten. So I wanted to be available. And prior to this point in my life, I say I've had a ton of meaningless jobs. Like they weren't going to lead anywhere, and I wasn't enjoying life. So I decided to teach myself a skill that used my art background because that's what made me happy. And I realized, there's so many people that hate technology. I loved it, which again is weird, but whatever. And I just decided to marry technology with art. And to me, the logical choice was websites. So I literally taught myself how to code a website by hand. Thank God that didn't have to stay that way for a very long time, but I am one of those people that can write a website from scratch by pure code. And I'm glad that that's not necessary anymore. But that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Wow, that's great. I think a great example of self-led leadership is when you realize, I'm not the person who wants to be around people all the time. And, so what can I do and what am I good at? And you took those things and really sort of use them to create something for yourself that you enjoyed. So many people would perhaps give up or, try to force themselves into doing things, that are more people-y because they felt they should. So I love that. It's a really good example of self-led leadership, I think. So at what point then did you realize that your role wasn't just about building websites, but really helping people to feel more confident showing up?
That was a gradual thing over time. The first, I think, instance of that really was when Facebook came out with business pages. So many people wanted to know how to use this for marketing, including myself. I realized at that point that I needed to be about 2 weeks ahead of what people were asking. And I literally started doing in-person classes. So this was before Zoom even existed. I think we had Skype maybe, but it really wasn't, like online streaming was not a thing. We did some in-person classes, many of them on social media. And I literally was 2 weeks ahead of the people that were in those classes. And it worked really well. Why it worked really well, I'm not quite sure. But I learned at that point that you didn't need to be the absolute expert to teach somebody a basic knowledge so that they can just use it in their business. Like they weren't wanting to be experts themselves. They were just wanting a few strategies to help them move forward. And when I was learning that, I just, over time, I realized that what I'm learning is a skill that business owners need. They need to understand how to just put one foot forward, get a little bit ahead, and then roll with whatever works, kind of a thing. And I've been, I don't know if it was accident, I don't know what it was, but my whole career of building websites has been like that. I've tried things, some things didn't work. I've tried things that did work, and then I only shared the things that worked. And never mentioned the things that didn't work. And people really saw that as everything she does works. But it really isn't true. It's not that way in real life. So I've just kind of just led by 2 weeks at a time.
I love that. And you're right. You don't have to be, you don't have to have all the knowledge and be a complete expert in something. And I think actually being 2 weeks ahead is even better because it's fresh. What you've learned is fresh in your mind. You're able to teach that, to share that with other people, I think, more effectively. And, by not having everything all prepared sort of all at once, it allows you to be more flexible as you realize, okay, people need to know this. You might not have included that in a course if you had pre-prepared it, for example. So I think that was a really smart thing to do. And, since we talked about many entrepreneurs do feel overwhelmed or intimidated by technology, do you get a sense for what you think is actually underneath that feeling of overwhelm or the fear of technology?
I really think it's a self-confidence thing. A lot of people, so I have an Ask Dotty membership, and it is for solopreneurs who have issues with technology, but they know they need to figure it out so that they can move forward. And so that's what the description of most of the people that are in that membership. And I have had some women in there have, major breakthroughs on being able to use technology. People talk themselves out of it. I've heard it over and over. They say, I don't understand technology. Technology makes me feel dumb. I don't even want to try. Technology hates me. I think I've heard them all. But what that is self-talk. They are talking themselves into failing with technology. So I teach people to stop doing that and to just take it one step at a time. Here's the thing you need to do today, kind of a thing, to get past whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. Technology is not something that hates you. I mean, that's like saying AI actually thinks. It doesn't. It has a base of knowledge. It's not going to judge you. Technology isn't going to make you feel dumb, like a lot of people say. It's not the technology that makes you feel dumb. It's people on the other side that may have said things to you that made you feel dumb, but it's not the technology. And, technology gets blamed for all kinds of interpersonal problems that it really has nothing to do with. So I just help people realize that they don't have a fear of technology. There's other things underlying that they do have, but let's just take this one step at a time. Let's learn this one thing, and then you can move forward. And over time, you can stack all kinds of things on top of that one little piece of knowledge. And all of a sudden, you're like, oh, I can do this. And the reality is, the whole time, you should have been saying, oh, I can do this, instead of telling yourself that technology doesn't like you.
Right. That is so true. I think it's, people often perhaps think they need to learn a lot more about it than they really do. I mean, I do a lot with technology, not because I'm a technology person, but I sort of learn what I need to learn. I remember, like you were saying, before all the softwares came out and they made everything easier, before the course platforms were a thing. I remember I used to record sessions of workshops and then I'd record them on my computer, and then I'd transfer that to a CD, and then I would mail the CDs out. I just learned how to do that bit, and then when the course platforms came out, I started teaching myself how to do that. But it is. I think if you take it, like you said, in small pieces, what is it that you need to do now, and learn how to do that, it takes away that sense of fear. It isn't the technology. And it's okay to get it wrong. I think maybe there's a fear of getting it wrong. I've done things wrong so many times, but that's how you learn. When it doesn't work as you want it to, then you learn how to do it properly.
Many years ago,
yeah,
in college, I was hired as an intern. I can't even remember if I was paid for this job or not. They hired me to break things, literally. It was software, not physical things. But because my brain works very differently from someone who would, especially back then, people that develop software we're very linear thinkers. Go from point A to point B in the shortest amount of time. Well, my brain did this instead. And so they would hire me to literally go in and break the software so that they knew when they put it out for a user that, this might happen. So let's fix it first, kind of a thing. So when it comes to technology, breaking it is actually good. It's not bad. And by the time it's to market, it should be fairly bulletproof as far as breaking it goes. So, you're right. People have a fear of breaking things, but I'm here to tell you, break it. It'll work better after you break
permission. You got permission to break it.
Yes, I give you permission to break it.
I love that. What a great job. It's my job to, try and break things. You can't get it wrong. But so speaking about returning to sort of visibility, I was just wondering if you've seen maybe patterns in the way business owners hold themselves back from visibility.
Oh, tons of patterns. One of the things that they do is, first of all, video is a huge piece of visibility, and it's not going away. It's just getting stronger and stronger and stronger. So there's a lot of people that are afraid to be on video. One of the biggest fears is that they'll say something that they regret saying. Well, video is way more forgiving than going into a big networking group and saying something you regret saying. You can't take that back. On video, you just simply hit delete. I wouldn't even edit it. Like back when I was doing those short little videos, I didn't edit anything. They were, what I said is what I said. And if I didn't like what I said, I just deleted it and re-recorded it. 30 seconds is way faster than trying to edit something for hours. So video is very forgiving. Live video, maybe not, but just recording it. If you said something, just delete it. So that's thing number one. And even though people realize that, they don't really get it. They think it's set in stone because I said that. So getting over that is a big piece. The other thing about visibility nowadays is social media. People hate social media, and then people love social media. But the vast majority of business owners they're not comfortable with being on social media. And I tell people still today, if you're not comfortable with your mom or dad reading something, you probably shouldn't put it on social media. I mean, I don't use social media for personal gains at all. I really don't. And people need to realize that, because I've seen some things from business owners that I would rather have not seen. But the other thing about getting traction on social media, most business owners will come to me and they'll say, I get nothing out of it. And the reason they get nothing out of it is because they're very inconsistent. And when it comes to visibility online, consistency really matters. So if you do something really, really hard, concentrated for like 2 weeks, and then you take 6 months off, those 2 weeks don't matter. You need to be able to figure out what you're capable of doing and maintaining over a long period of time, instead of getting into these, 5-day boot camps that force you to do whatever it is for 5 days. And then when you're done, you're like, I'm so glad I'm done with that. I never have to do it again. But that doesn't work online. Even with websites, people come to me and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad it's done. Now I can move on to the next thing. Well, it's a living, breathing thing. You look at it that way. And your website is a journey. It is not a destination. It is never done. Same thing online. It's a journey. You will never arrive at any place, because as soon as you arrive, that next goalpost is out there. And then you're working towards that. So it's a continuous journey, and people don't realize, they don't understand. They think if they put a ton of effort in this year, then next year they can just skate. And it just doesn't work that way.
That is such great advice. And I also think, and one of the things that held me back for a long time from doing video is sometimes you compare yourself to other people that are, putting stuff out there. And, I kept thinking, I'm not dancing on video. I'm not recording my, day from when I get up in the morning. So it's about, I think, also finding a way that feels comfortable for you. What do you want to share? That's of value, and doing it the right way for you. So that's really helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm just wondering, in your own journey, can you remember how it felt when you had to trust yourself and take a leap in your business and, be more visible and really expand from just websites to being the visibility person?
That feeling was actually very early on, and it was very scary. There were two things that happened in my life at that point. First of all, when I started my business, I was not the only breadwinner in my family. And my goal with the money I made was to be able to reinvest it back in my business and then start like a retirement accounts and that sort of thing. So my money wasn't being used for day-to-day expenses. And then shortly after I went full-time in my business, that changed. And my other half at the time just lost his job and was never really gainfully employed again, as far as being able to cover all of the expenses. So it was like, put your feet to the fire kind of a feeling. I did that. This is why I highly recommend people never start a business the way I did it. But to do that, I had to really get totally out of my comfort zone. I was in a networking group locally here. It was called I Take the Lead. It's still around. And it was a bunch of little groups throughout the Portland, Vancouver area. And I literally went to 2 a day, morning and noon, because I was the only website designer in the whole organization at the time. I could go to any group I wanted and it didn't cost me any more. So I thought I might as well do that. It did a couple of things. I met a ton of other business owners, which I was in a town where I didn't really know anybody prior to doing this. And the other thing I started doing was I started being one of their guest speakers. Well, I was not a speaker. You can imagine an introvert doesn't want to be a speaker. I did a few things to help myself cope. The very first time I spoke, it was only like a room of maybe 20 people, which now seems small, but back then was just like this ginormous number that was sitting in the back of my head. So I decided I would create a handout on whatever the topic was. It was always something to do with social media. And it was like an outline of what I was going to talk about so that they could fill in, write their notes, do whatever. But really, it was so I had something to hang on to. And I could read and figure out where I was supposed to be in my presentation. So I really did it for me, even though I made it look like I did it for them. That strategy worked for years and years and years. It worked really well. So if you're an introvert and you're forced to speak and you don't want to, please do that. It really does help. But what I realized moving forward is I needed to be able, if I was going to make this business support the family, I needed to have more clients coming in. I needed more referrals. I needed people to start talking about me locally. So I really did all I could to do that. And I entered local contests and, which they're all usually just popularity things. I could get enough votes to win. So I started getting some traction locally. For years and years, it worked. I mean, almost all of my clients were from Washington and Oregon. COVID hit, everything shut down. I went online, and now I've got clients, I think, in almost every state. So visibility really went up for me when COVID hit, which was not the effect of a lot of people, that a lot of people had. Although I was used to sitting at home working by myself, so there was no change there. But the online visibility is all in your control. It's what you want to put, the effort you want to put into it. And my advice is that you make sure whatever that effort is sustainable for you and for your business. And if you're not getting the results you need, then let's adjust the strategy, not just put more effort into something that's not working.
Love that. Yeah, it's I completely get what you mean, because as a fellow introvert, COVID, when that hit, it wasn't that hard for me because I was just used to being at home. In fact, in many ways, I think it made it easier in terms of business, because I remember I used to have a lot of people who couldn't figure out Zoom, or, it was difficult to get onto a video call, but COVID forced people to do that, so people started getting comfortable with it. So it made it easier in many respects.
My business grew.
Yeah.
Because I quit wasting time driving.
Yes. People often ask me, well, why don't you go back to in-person networking events? And I just think of all the time it used to take for getting ready, for driving somewhere, especially here in Portland, finding parking, having the meeting, and then, coming back again. That's most of a day gone. Whereas you can show up to an online meeting and just be done in an hour. So yeah ideal for introverts. So when someone stops hiding, like you said, you used to, because it's easy to hide online, isn't it? But when someone stops hiding and really starts showing up consistently and sort of claiming their space online, what do you think shifts for them when they do that?
For me, it's the referrals have gone up. My reputation has skyrocketed. Whether that's, it's all perception. I feel I had the same reputation here locally as I do online now, but people didn't know me. You know what I'm saying? So now it's like your perceived value has gone up because people start seeing you for who you really are and not who they think you are. So that's been a big thing. A good example of this, I did a webinar last week, and one of the participants on that webinar, during the Q&A section, she wasn't interested in what I was selling on the webinar. Interested's the wrong word. She wasn't ready for what I was selling on the webinar. However, her comments were things like, Dotty, I've known you now and have seen you online in various different places for probably 10 years. And now I'm ready and I need a website. Okay. What I was talking about had nothing to do with websites. Well, I won't say nothing. That was not the goal. Selling a website was not the goal of that webinar. But because of my online reputation and her how she perceives me, it's now she's ready, and she probably knows 10 website designers. But because I've been consistent and my message resonates with her, she likes me, she's going to go with me now that she's ready. So people, a lot of times, this is a really hard lesson for business owners to get. Why do I continue to go to a networking group when I haven't received a referral? I get that a lot, you know, but that referral, like she said, she has seen me around the internet for 10 years. She wasn't ready. Now she's ready. So who is she going to go with? The person she's comfortable with and has seen the reputation, the blah, blah, blah. So that referral that you're walking away from by quitting will never happen if you can't stay the game.
That is so true. And it's a great example of, I think, people sometimes get frustrated. Well, I've been posting on social media, I've been showing up at network events, and, nothing's really happening. But it is that consistency. People have to continue to see you and get to know you. And they can only do that if you're consistently showing up.
Back in the day, people would say it was 7 times, 7 touches.
Yeah.
It's up to like somewhere between 20 and 30 now.
Is it really?
It is.
That's interesting. Yeah, that makes sense.
And it has to do, I believe, with people's attention spans, all of the advertisements that we're bombarded with that our brains just filter out. So if you're not consistent in showing up and someone hasn't seen you 20 times, they're probably not using you. So it's, it is a game.
Yeah, it is. So I'm just wondering, what advice would you give to someone who perhaps knows they need to be visible, but feels resistant to it?
Pick one strategy and stick with it. Make sure it's a strategy that you can do. And if you are missing a piece of technology, I would be happy to help you with whatever that is. But pick something that you can do, you can maintain over the long haul, and just start doing it. Once you're really good at that one thing, whatever it is, then add a second strategy. Do not try to do 5 strategies at once. You will overwhelm your nervous system. You will become a crazy person. People will not like what they see because you're always frustrated. Just pick one, get good at it, and then add to your repertoire at that point.
That's such great advice, because so often I think we see messages that say you've got to be doing this, you've got to be doing that, you've got to have your website, you've got to have funnels, you've got to have autoresponders, you've got to have be on all these different social media platforms, you've got to have courses, all of these things. And that is incredibly overwhelming. But you're right, just pick one and get comfortable and good at that. And then you can add something else if you want to. Yeah. So looking back over the years that you've been in business, just curious to know, what do you think entrepreneurship has taught you about yourself?
A lot, I'm sure. I can't say that I've ever thought about that, but, well, it did teach me that I am an introvert. Prior to that, I never heard of that word, didn't know it existed. It has taught me a lot about patience, perseverance. It has really taught me how to stick to something. I'm entering my 20th year. I've not had a job ever in my life for 20. In fact, I haven't even lived in the same house for 20 years. And I've really realized that I could take care of myself. Prior to having my own business, I said I had a ton of meaningless jobs, and I literally meant that. And I was probably making $7 to $8 an hour. You can't live, especially with a child, on $7 to $8 an hour. And it wasn't necessarily the times, sure, people got paid less back then. Things cost less back then. But the reality was, a man doing my same job was probably making $15 to $20 an hour. And I wasn't willing to swallow that. And so I had to have a way to make money myself and be in control of it myself. It was when I said that my other half lost his job and I had to put my feet to the fire, it was because I wasn't going back to where I came from. I could only look forward. That was the only direction that was viable, because I couldn't pay the bills on what I was making. And it wasn't a lack of skills. It wasn't the wrong job. It was simply I was paid way less than what I deserved. And I knew that. And consider myself 100% unemployable right now. Like I couldn't go back to a job. I've had some people offer, "Hey Dottie, would you come work for my business?" It's like, no, nope, not going to do it. I don't care what you're going to pay me. I'm not going to do it. So prior to being self-employed, those thoughts never went through my head. I just knew I was in a situation that I needed to take control of and fix, and no one else was going to do it for me. And it was the best decision I ever made. It was scary because I had zero experience. I didn't know anything about running a business. I just knew that I needed to rely on myself and make my life happen, because no one was going to do it for me.
Self-led leadership at its best, leading yourself into what is right for you. Since you've been in business for so many years, Dottie, I'm just wondering, what helps you to stay grounded when you're running your business after so many years?
There's been many times I thought I'm just going to quit. I don't want to deal with this challenge, whatever it is. I just want to just walk away. And then I think about where I came from. And I'm like, I have nothing to walk away to. So a lot of times it's just simply getting help. I have business coaches now. I never had those in the past. For the last five-ish years or so, I've had business coaches. I have people that I've met along the way that are 2 weeks ahead of where I'm at. We'll put it that way. And I listen to their advice. When I first started, I had kind of like that teenage mentality. Even though I knew nothing, I thought I knew everything, kind of a thing. I lost that along the way a long time ago. And I really find the people that have been where you are and have made it through, and listen to what helped them and just try it. I've tried a lot of things. Some of them, I probably will never try again. But others have been very helpful in being able to rationalize what's really going on, figuring out what the challenge really is. Oftentimes it's not what is in your face, it's something behind the scenes, and just get help in those areas. You will succeed if you don't rely on yourself 100% of the time.
Yeah, again, great advice. I mean, I think so often we just try to do things or think we have to do things all by ourselves, but it's okay to ask for and to receive help. In fact, it's
necessary.
It's essential, yes. Before we wrap things up, Dottie, how can people learn more about you and get in touch with you?
So I'm all over the internet. I'm really active on Facebook and I'm active on LinkedIn. So if you look for Dotty Scott on either of those, you will find me. You can go to either of my websites. If it has a question to do with websites itself, that is premiumwebsites.net. And there's a scheduling calendar on there. If you want to talk to me, you can set an appointment. And I also have AskDotty.com. And again, there's a scheduling kind of networking appointment calendar on that website as well. And my phone number is literally everywhere. If you Google it, you will find it.
Well, Dotty, thank you so much for sharing both the practical wisdom and your personal journey, that personal journey behind your work. And it's conversations like this that are exactly why I created this self-led leadership interview series, to explore the real experiences beneath the success and leadership, and the ways kind of we have to learn to trust ourselves along the way. Thank you so much. You are a perfect example, or this is a perfect example, because we first met through an online networking group.
Yes, we did.
We did, and I was impressed with you then. And when I was thinking about doing this series, I've been seeing you showing up mainly on LinkedIn. I'm not on Facebook very much anymore, but mainly on LinkedIn. But it's because I kept seeing you showing up and seeing the things that you were doing and seeing the growth and seeing the expansion, that when I thought about doing the interview series, your name immediately came to mind. So it is that consistency. I wouldn't have thought of that if you hadn't been showing up, right? So
that's right. Because we haven't seen each other in that networking group in person in a very long time.
No, we haven't. But it's just so. Yeah, consistency is key, and just keep showing up in the right way for you. Well, thank you again so much for being part of this interview series. I know people will find great value in what you've had to share. So thank you.
You're welcome, Linda.